Brett Hannah Shuford, the beloved Broadway performer, social media creator, and queer father, has passed away at the age of 46. He died peacefully surrounded by family after a courageous battle with rare and aggressive cancers, as confirmed by his husband, Stephen Hannah Shuford. He is survived by his husband and their son, Maverick. Tributes continue to pour in from across the theater and LGBTQIA+ communities, with many remembering Brett for his generosity, talent, and the lasting impact he made both on stage and off. Richard Smallwood, a giant of gospel music, has died at 77 from complications of kidney failure in Sandy Spring, Maryland. Smallwood was celebrated for blending traditional church hymns with contemporary sounds, incorporating elements of soul and funk. Born in Washington, D.C., he began playing piano as a child and formed his first gospel group at age 11. He later joined Howard University's first gospel ensemble, the Celestials, and in 1977 launched his recording career with the Richard Smallwood Singers. His music inspired generations, bringing gospel to wider audiences while staying rooted in faith. Richard Smallwood's legacy of talent, devotion, and innovation will continue to influence gospel music for years to come. John Mulrooney, the beloved comedian and late-night host, has died at 67. He passed away on December 29, 2025, at his home in Coxsackie, New York. The cause of death has not been revealed. Mulrooney was known for his sharp wit and high-energy performances, hosting shows like Comic Strip Live and guest hosting The Late Show. His passing has sparked tributes from fans and fellow comedians, remembering him as a pioneer in comedy and late-night television. Perry Bamonte, longtime guitarist and keyboardist for The Cure, has died at 65 after a short illness over Christmas, the band confirmed. Bamonte joined The Cure full-time in 1990, performing on multiple albums and over 400 shows until 2005. He rejoined in 2022, playing 90 more live shows, including the band's first album in 16 years, Songs of a Lost World. Remembered as quiet, intense, intuitive, constant, and hugely creative, Bamonte was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with The Cure in 2019. The band shared their condolences, saying he will be very greatly missed. Richard Wayne Van Dyke was born on December 13, 1925, in West Plains, Missouri, to Hazel Victoria (née McCord), a stenographer, and Lauren Wayne Cookie Van Dyke, a salesman. He grew up in Danville, Illinois, where he was surrounded by a supportive family that encouraged his early interest in music and performance. Dick was the older brother of actor Jerry Van Dyke, who would later appear as his brother in The Dick Van Dyke Show. Van Dyke's ancestry is a rich mix of Dutch, English, Irish, and Scottish roots, and his family line traces back to Mayflower passenger John Alden, giving him deep historical ties to early America. His upbringing in Danville exposed him to small-town values, but also to the power of performance. He joined his high school a cappella choir and drama club, performing alongside future stars like Bobby Short and Donald O'Connor. These early experiences convinced him that entertainment was his calling, though at one point he briefly considered pursuing a career in the ministry. During his senior year, Van Dyke left high school to join the United States Army Air Forces during World War II. Initially denied enlistment for being underweight, he eventually joined as a radio announcer and was later transferred to Special Services, entertaining troops across the United States. He was discharged in 1946, having gained not only valuable performance experience, but also a profound sense of discipline and work ethic. Remarkably, he would later receive his high school diploma in 2004, decades after his early departure. After the war, Van Dyke returned to entertainment with renewed determination. He began working as a radio DJ on WDAN in Danville, Illinois, and in 1947, he formed a comedy duo with pantomime performer Phil Erickson called Eric and Van, the Merry Mutes. This duo toured the West Coast nightclub circuit, performing mime acts and lip-syncing to records, an unusual but highly creative combination that honed Van Dyke's physical comedy skills. By the early 1950s, the duo had relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, performing on local television in a show called The Merry Mutes, which featured original skits and music. Van Dyke's early career also included stints as a single comedian and MC on WDSU-TV in New Orleans, and his first national exposure came through appearances on programs such as Dennis James' Chance of a Lifetime in 1954, as well as ABC's The Pat Boone Chevy Showroom and NBC's The Polly Bergen Show. A pivotal moment came when a friend from the Army, now a CBS executive, recommended Van Dyke to the network, leading to a 7-year contract with CBS. During this period, Van Dyke also served as an anchorman on the CBS Morning Show, with Walter Cronkite as his newsman. A unique early experience that blended live presentation with comedic timing and improvisation. In November 1959, Van Dyke made his Broadway debut in the musical revue The Girls Against the Boys at the Alvin Theater. Although the production ran only 16 performances, it gave him the critical exposure necessary to launch a major career in theater and eventually in television and film. The 1960s marked a pivotal decade for Dick Van Dyke, during which he transitioned from a talented performer to a household name, both on Broadway and the silver screen. His combination of comic timing, physicality, charm, and musical ability allowed him to dominate multiple entertainment mediums simultaneously. Broadway triumph. Bye Bye Birdie, 1960 to 1963. Dick Van Dyke's first major Broadway breakthrough came in 1960 when he starred as Albert F. Peterson in Bye Bye Birdie. The musical, inspired by the phenomenon of Elvis Presley's draft into the Army, was a satirical take on American pop culture, teenage hysteria, and the rise of rock and roll. Role and performance. Van Dyke portrayed Albert, a talent agent caught between the chaos of celebrity mania and his own personal anxieties. His performance was praised for its comic timing, expressiveness, and relatability, establishing him as a rising star in Broadway circles. Critical reception. Reviews were mixed. Brooks Atkinson of the New York Times called Van Dyke likable and noted his magnetic stage presence, though he felt the production itself needed refinement. Awards. Despite the mixed reviews, Van Dyke's performance earned him the Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Musical in 1961, a testament to his talent and promise. Tour and film adaptation. Van Dyke reprised the role in the 1963 film adaptation, alongside Anne Margaret, Janet Leigh, and Paul Lynde. While the adaptation shifted focus from Albert to a previously supporting character, Van Dyke's charm and comic expertise shone through, and the film was a commercial success. This period solidified Van Dyke's reputation as a versatile entertainer, capable of handling both stage musicals and the nuances of film comedy. Film stardom. Mary Poppins, 1964. Van Dyke's next major career milestone was Disney's Mary Poppins, 1964, where he played Bert, the Cockney chimney sweep and multi-talented sidekick to Julie Andrews' Mary Poppins. Role and skills. Bert required Van Dyke to sing, dance, perform physical comedy, and adopt a convincing Cockney accent, a combination few actors could pull off successfully. Physical comedy. His iconic chimney sweep routine showcased his athleticism and comic timing, drawing on his early experience in nightclub pantomime and television. Critical and audience reception. Van Dyke received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and audiences embraced Bert as one of the most memorable characters in Disney history. Legacy. The role cemented Van Dyke's status as a multifaceted performer, adept at blending humor, music, and heart in family entertainment. Other film highlights. Bye Bye Birdie and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. During the 1960s, Van Dyke continued to expand his film repertoire. Bye Bye Birdie, 1963. As mentioned, Van Dyke reprised his Broadway role for the big screen. His performance displayed a mix of charm, humor, and relatability, despite the film's altered focus. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, 1968. In this musical fantasy, Van Dyke played Caractacus Potts, the eccentric inventor who takes his magical flying car on whimsical adventures. The film demanded singing, physical comedy, and heartfelt acting, all of which Van Dyke delivered effortlessly. Though initially receiving mixed reviews, the film became a classic in family entertainment, further demonstrating Van Dyke's ability to carry films with a balance of humor, charm, and musical skill. The early 1960s marked a turning point in Dick Van Dyke's career. While he had achieved success on Broadway and in films such as Bye Bye Birdie and Mary Poppins, it was television that would catapult him into the hearts of millions of Americans and establish his legacy as one of the greatest TV performers of all time. The project that defined this era was the groundbreaking CBS sitcom, The Dick Van Dyke Show, 1961 to 1966. Genesis of The Dick Van Dyke Show. The show was created by Carl Reiner, a celebrated comedian, writer, and actor who had envisioned a program that blended workplace comedy, domestic humor, and clever writing. Reiner initially considered himself for the role of the lead, Rob Petrie, but eventually realized that Van Dyke's combination of physical comedy, charm, and musical ability made him the perfect fit. Van Dyke was relatively new to sitcoms, having focused mostly on theater, nightclub performances, and musical films. Reiner recalled that when he first saw Van Dyke, he was amazed by his energy, timing, and natural physicality. He could make a simple walk across the room funny, and that's the kind of performer this show needed. The concept of the show revolved around Rob Petrie, a television comedy writer for a fictional show called The Alan Brady Show, juggling the demands of his professional life with his domestic life with wife Laura Petrie, played by Mary Tyler Moore. The series cleverly blended workplace humor with family dynamics, something rare in television at the time, and it struck a chord with viewers across North America. Dick Van Dyke as Rob Petrie. Van Dyke's portrayal of Rob Petrie is now considered television history. His performance combines several unique elements. Physical comedy. Van Dyke's background in pantomime and nightclub acts allowed him to perform intricate physical comedy routines, often involving pratfalls, clumsy movements, and exaggerated expressions. Memorable scenes, such as Rob fumbling while walking, tripping over furniture, or handling props awkwardly, showcased Van Dyke's skill in making ordinary situations hilarious without overacting. Charm and relatability. Unlike the one-dimensional sitcom stars of the era, Van Dyke played Rob as a realistic, likable, and multi-dimensional character. He was witty, occasionally flustered, but ultimately warm and empathetic, traits that made audiences instantly connect with him. Comic timing. His impeccable timing, honed from years of theater and film, allowed him to deliver lines with precision, often pausing for effect, emphasizing awkward silences, or reacting naturally to the other characters. Mary Tyler Moore and on-screen chemistry. Van Dyke's chemistry with Mary Tyler Moore, who played Laura Petrie, became legendary. Their playful banter, subtle expressions, and timing created a dynamic and believable marriage, unlike many of the more formulaic TV relationships of the time. Moore's character was intelligent, funny, and independent, giving Van Dyke room to interact naturally in ways that enhanced both their performances. Critics noted that their partnership brought a new level of realism and sophistication to sitcoms, inspiring countless future TV shows. Critical and popular success. The Dick Van Dyke Show was both a critical darling and a ratings success. Emmy Awards. Van Dyke won 3 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, highlighting his talent and the show's groundbreaking nature. Writing and production. The scripts, crafted by Carl Reiner and a team of exceptional writers, combined witty dialogue, clever plots, and domestic realism, earning praise from critics and peers alike. Audience impact. The show attracted millions of viewers and became a cultural touchstone, influencing fashion, dialogue, and family norms in the 1960s. Notable episodes and moments. Some of the most iconic episodes of this period showcased Van Dyke's versatility. Coast to Coast Big Mouth. Rob accidentally delivers an unedited joke on live TV, leading to chaos. Van Dyke's physical reactions, facial expressions, and comedic timing were praised as classic television moments. It May Look Like a Walnut, a surreal, satirical episode that blends humor and subtle social commentary, allowing Van Dyke to stretch beyond conventional sitcom acting. Musical episodes. Van Dyke's ability to sing and dance occasionally shone through, including choreographed routines that felt effortless and hilarious, merging his Broadway experience with TV comedy. Influence on television comedy. The show's success did more than entertain. It revolutionized television comedy, introduced workplace-centered humor blended with domestic life, showed that a sitcom could be clever, witty, and smart, appealing to both casual viewers and critical audiences. influenced generations of comedians and actors, including Steve Carell, Jim Parsons, and others who cite Van Dyke's physical comedy and timing as inspiration. Carl Reiner later reflected, "Dick had this rare ability to make something complicated look easy. He could take the most ridiculous situation and make it feel authentic and hilarious simultaneously." Van Dyke's multifaceted skills. During this period, Van Dyke proved that he was not just a sitcom star but a multi-dimensional entertainer. Physical comedy. Mastered pratfalls, slapstick, and choreographed sequences. Musical ability. His singing and dancing added layers to his performances, especially in episodes that allowed him to showcase his theatrical background. Emotional depth. Even in comedy, Van Dyke could express frustration, empathy, and love, grounding the humor in relatable human experience. Following the monumental success of The Dick Van Dyke Show, Dick Van Dyke's career continued to soar in the 1960s and 1970s, a period marked by film musicals, creative experimentation, and personal growth. While television had made him a household name, Van Dyke sought to expand his range in film, maintain his theatrical roots, and explore new opportunities, all while navigating the complexities of family life and the public eye. Film success. Mary Poppins, 1964. Although the previous part touched on Mary Poppins, its full impact on Van Dyke's career cannot be overstated. Iconic role. As Bert, Van Dyke became a global symbol of charm and energy, blending physical comedy, singing, and dancing in a way rarely seen in film at the time. Challenges. Mastering the Cockney accent proved difficult. Despite criticism of its inconsistency, his performances were energetic, endearing, and perfectly timed for both children and adults, cementing Bert as one of Disney's most beloved characters. Recognition. Van Dyke's performance earned him a Golden Globe nomination and made him a cultural icon, influencing both family entertainment and musical comedy for decades. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, 1968. Following the global success of Mary Poppins, Van Dyke starred as Caractacus Potts in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, a fantastical musical film about a magical flying car. The film allowed Van Dyke to display his wide range of talents, including singing, dancing, and delivering heartfelt comedy. Scenes such as Potts navigating the eccentric inventions in his workshop demonstrated Van Dyke's skill at physical comedy, while the emotional interactions with his children highlighted his warmth and relatability. Although critics were divided initially, the film became a classic family favorite, solidifying Van Dyke's reputation as a multi-talented performer capable of crossing age groups and genres. Other films and stage projects. During the late 1960s and 1970s, Van Dyke explored a variety of projects. Bye Bye Birdie, 1963 film, reprising his Broadway role allowed him to bridge stage and screen effectively. The Comic, 1969, a comedy drama that displayed more dramatic and nuanced acting, illustrating Van Dyke's capacity to handle serious material alongside comedic roles. Broadway engagements. Though Van Dyke focused on films, he occasionally returned to the stage, keeping his musical theater roots alive. This period marked Van Dyke's transition from television star to a versatile performer in film and theater, able to appeal to both adult and family audiences. Family life and personal challenges. While Van Dyke's professional life thrived, the 1960s and 1970s were also a time of personal growth and family commitments. Marriage and children. Van Dyke was married to Margie Willett, married 1948 to 1984, and raised 4 children, including Barry, Christian, and Stacy Van Dyke. Balancing a demanding career with fatherhood was challenging but formative, instilling discipline, empathy, and patience. Public perception. His wholesome public persona from television and family films contributed to his reputation as a family-friendly entertainer, but Van Dyke was careful to maintain privacy in his personal life, even as fame grew. Work-life balance. Juggling Broadway, films, and television schedules required Van Dyke to innovate ways to stay grounded, often relying on close family support and a strong sense of purpose. Television and guest appearances. Even as his film career expanded, Van Dyke maintained television engagements, appeared on various specials and guest roles, keeping him visible and relevant. Developed a reputation for professionalism, warmth, and improvisational skill, making him a favorite among directors, co-stars, and audiences. Style and craft development. During this era, Van Dyke honed the elements that would define his career for decades: physical comedy, mastered pratfalls, choreographed slapstick, and energetic routines that blended theater and film sensibilities. Musical talent. Singing and dancing remained core to his performances, allowing seamless movement between musicals and family comedies. Emotional authenticity. Even in comedic roles, Van Dyke conveyed genuine emotion, connecting with audiences on multiple levels. Adaptability. He successfully transitioned from stage to television to film, a versatility that few performers achieve. By the dawn of the 1980s, Dick Van Dyke had already achieved legendary status as a television, film, and stage performer. Yet, unlike many stars whose fame wanes with age, Van Dyke demonstrated a rare ability to reinvent himself, embracing new opportunities in television and film, while continuing to delight audiences with his humor, charm, and versatility. This period of his life marked both professional experimentation and personal reflection, as he balanced the demands of his career with family responsibilities and a deepening commitment to his craft. The New Dick Van Dyke Show, 1971 to 1974, a bold experiment. Following the tremendous success of the Dick Van Dyke Show in the 1960s, Van Dyke sought to return to television in a way that allowed him to showcase his evolving comedic style and contemporary sensibilities. This ambition resulted in the New Dick Van Dyke Show, which aired on CBS from 1971 to 1974. Premise and role: Van Dyke played Dick Preston, a television comedy writer and family man, echoing themes from his earlier sitcom, but with a modern twist that reflected 1970s culture and sensibilities. Challenges: while the show featured Van Dyke's signature humor and physical comedy, it struggled to achieve the same iconic status as its predecessor. Critics and audiences appreciated Van Dyke's charm, but sometimes found the series' writing inconsistent compared to the groundbreaking work of Carl Reiner in the 1960s. Legacy: despite a lukewarm reception, the series demonstrated Van Dyke's willingness to experiment and push creative boundaries, traits that would define the next phase of his career. Expanding film work. Diverse roles in the 1980s. In the 1980s, Van Dyke pursued a series of film roles that allowed him to explore different genres, from family entertainment to comedy drama. Night at the Museum of Life experiences. While not every film was a blockbuster, Van Dyke continued to infuse each role with energy, charm, and comedic precision, demonstrating that his physicality and expressiveness remained as strong as ever. Supporting roles and cameos. Van Dyke began to take on supporting roles in major films, recognizing the opportunity to mentor younger actors and share his expertise while maintaining his visibility in popular culture. These projects reinforced the perception that Van Dyke was not just a one-hit wonder or nostalgia act. Rather, he was a seasoned performer continually evolving with the industry. Diagnosis: Murder, 1993 to 2001. Television renaissance. The 1990s brought a major career resurgence for Van Dyke with Diagnosis: Murder, a long-running television series that blended crime, drama, and subtle comedy. Role: Van Dyke played Dr. Mark Sloan, a physician who solved crimes alongside his detective son, played by Barry Van Dyke, his real-life son. This casting allowed for authentic family chemistry on screen. Appeal: the show showcased Van Dyke's ability to balance humor, suspense, and heartfelt moments, proving that even decades into his career, he could still command a series with nuance, depth, and charm. Longevity and impact. Running for 8 seasons, the show became a signature project of the 1990s, introducing Van Dyke to a new generation of viewers while retaining the affection of longtime fans. This series also allowed Van Dyke to demonstrate dramatic skill alongside comedic instincts, blending genres in a way few actors could achieve. His warmth and credibility as a lead actor contributed to the show's sustained success, and his performances frequently drew praise for subtlety, timing, and emotional resonance. Later film work, nostalgia, and family entertainment. During the 1990s, Van Dyke continued to embrace family-friendly and nostalgic projects, reconnecting with audiences familiar with his earlier work. Curious George, 2006, and animation roles. Van Dyke lent his voice acting talents to animated films, bringing playfulness and charisma to beloved characters. Night at the Museum franchise. In films such as Night at the Museum 2006 and Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian 2009, Van Dyke played supporting roles that leveraged his physical comedy, timing, and recognizable charm, bridging generational gaps between older and younger viewers. Mary Poppins Returns, 2018. Returning to the franchise decades later, Van Dyke appeared in a cameo as Mr. Dawes Sr., connecting his early career success to contemporary film audiences and honoring his enduring legacy, awards, honors, and recognition. By the end of the 1990s, Van Dyke had accumulated a staggering list of accolades, reflecting his sustained excellence across multiple entertainment platforms. Emmy Awards, 6 wins for television, including work on The Dick Van Dyke Show. Grammy Award for musical performances and comedy albums. Tony Award for his Broadway performances in Bye Bye Birdie, Hollywood Walk of Fame induction, 1993, and Television Hall of Fame, 1995, recognized his monumental influence. Disney Legend Award, 1998, honoring his contributions to family entertainment and musicals. These honors reflected Van Dyke's versatility, longevity, and cultural impact, cementing him as a performer whose influence spanned theater, television, and film. Personal life and family. During these decades, Van Dyke continued to prioritize family and mentorship, worked closely with his son, Barry Van Dyke, on Diagnosis: Murder, creating a unique father-son dynamic on screen, maintained a reputation as approachable, kind, and professional in Hollywood circles, earning the respect of colleagues and younger performers. Advocated for family entertainment, wholesome comedy, and physical performance, preserving a legacy of joy and humor for new audiences. Legacy by the late 1990s. By the close of the 20th century, Dick Van Dyke had achieved a rare trifecta of success. Television icon, redefining sitcom comedy with The Dick Van Dyke Show, and later sustaining relevance with Diagnosis: Murder. Film star, mastering musicals, Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, family films, and cameo roles that span generations. Stage performer. From Broadway's Bye Bye Birdie to touring and musical appearances, Van Dyke retained a lifelong commitment to theater and musical performance. Van Dyke's ability to blend physical comedy, musical talent, and emotional authenticity made him one of the most beloved performers of the century. Critics often noted that his energy, timing, and warmth transcended age, allowing him to connect with audiences for decades. Entering the 21st century, Dick Van Dyke had already cemented his status as a television, film, and stage legend. However, rather than resting on his decades-long achievements, Van Dyke continued to reinvent himself, exploring voice acting, family entertainment, cameo appearances, and public tributes, while maintaining his reputation as one of the most beloved and respected figures in Hollywood history. This period of his life reflects both professional endurance and personal commitment to performance, highlighting his influence on multiple generations of audiences. Diagnosis: Murder Continues, 2000 to 2001. Van Dyke's long-running television series, Diagnosis: Murder, remained a central focus during the early 2000s. Consistency and legacy. The show's final seasons allowed Van Dyke to mentor younger actors, including his son, Barry Van Dyke, while maintaining his signature blend of drama, humor, and relatable warmth. Cultural impact. By portraying a father figure solving crimes alongside his son, Van Dyke reinforced themes of family, mentorship, and morality, endearing him to viewers across generations. Final episodes. The series concluded in 2001, leaving behind a body of work that showcased Van Dyke's enduring talent, reliability, and charisma in long-form television storytelling, voice acting, and animated features. Van Dyke's vocal talent and comedic timing allowed him to transition naturally into voice acting, a medium he embraced in the 2000s. Curious George, 2006. Van Dyke provided voice work for this animated adaptation of the beloved children's classic. His warm, humorous performance contributed to the film's accessibility for both children and adults. The Ant Bully, 2006, and other projects, he lent his distinctive voice to a variety of animated films and specials, demonstrating that his energy, comedic instincts, and personality could translate seamlessly into animation. Mary Poppins Returns, 2018. One of the most celebrated moments of Van Dyke's later career was his cameo as Mr. Dawes Sr., a nod to his iconic role in the original 1964 Mary Poppins. Despite being in his early 90s, Van Dyke delivered a performance filled with charm, physicality, and wit, connecting a new generation of viewers to the classic Disney legacy. These projects reinforced Van Dyke's multi-generational appeal, proving that even in later life, he could entertain audiences across age groups and media platforms, stage appearances, and special projects. Although Van Dyke had largely shifted his focus to television and film, he occasionally returned to the stage, reminding audiences of his Broadway roots and musical talent. Participated in revivals and theatrical specials, including musical numbers that highlighted his singing and dancing skills. Appeared in televised tributes and honorary events celebrating classic television and film, receiving praise for his continued vitality and professionalism. In interviews, Van Dyke emphasized the importance of physical movement, timing, and emotional honesty, noting that these principles had guided his performances for over 6 decades. Honors and tributes in the 2000s. This period also featured numerous awards and tributes, reflecting Van Dyke's status as a living entertainment legend. Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, 2013, recognizing his contributions to film and television. This honor celebrated Van Dyke's career-long dedication to entertainment. Kennedy Center Honors, 2020, one of the most prestigious acknowledgments in American performing arts. This award underscored Van Dyke's impact on culture, comedy, and musical performance. Disney Legend, 1998, in continued Disney recognition, Van Dyke's work in Mary Poppins and other family-friendly projects secured his enduring association with Disney, honoring his legacy in film musicals and family entertainment. Cultural legacy and influence. By the 2010s, Van Dyke was universally recognized not only for his performances, but also for his professionalism, humility, and dedication. Physical comedy mastery. His pratfalls, slapstick routines, and choreography became a template for comedians and actors seeking to combine humor with grace. Mentorship. Van Dyke often shared insights with younger performers, particularly family members like Barry Van Dyke, emphasizing the importance of discipline, timing, and joy in performance. Cross-generational impact. With projects spanning from Mary Poppins, 1964, to Night at the Museum, 2006 to 2014, and Mary Poppins Returns, 2018, Van Dyke connected with audiences across 6 decades, a testament to his adaptability and appeal. Critics noted that Van Dyke's energy, optimism, and warmth seemed ageless, allowing him to continue performing at a high level even into his 90s. His career became a case study in sustained relevance, demonstrating that talent, professionalism, and a positive public persona could endure in an ever-changing entertainment landscape.